Hello, so we're just a couple days after the YA Lit Summit in Las Vegas at UNLV, where authors and teachers and librarians and researchers, did I say that, came together, even some school administrators came together to talk about making our curriculum in middle and high school really more relevant to our students, and also talked a little bit about the activities in sort of critical thinking, sort of the activities that will help us do the critical thinking we need to in our classes to really engage the students, to show how literature can really be a way of trying on new identities, a way of thinking about the world, access to making meaning in their own life, access to making meaning in lives beyond our own. So I was so happy to get to meet so many teachers at Clark County Consolidated School District, and I told everybody I met to email me if they have questions or concerns. And then here's my first email on the screen here. So in my session, I talked a little bit about how we can justify the choices that we make in the classroom. Teachers have a lot of power choosing a single text when so many different books could offer students access and relevance to their diverse lives. And if we choose one book for 8 weeks, then we're really not tapping into the diversity of our students and being inclusive of different authors and different stories in different time periods. So as much as we all agreed that a shared text is really important, we also wanted to make opportunities for independent reading and book groups. And so the email that I got here is number one, asking about using a blog as a way of giving students an opportunity to process their independent reading experiences. And then number two, the idea of using literature circles or book groups so that students, again, can read books that they're choosing just in smaller groups and have access to different time periods and places and ideas and authors and stories and characters. And so just some logistics here. And I think that's really important when you leave a conference and you've had some theory and you're really inspired, when you go back and sit down in your own homes and in your own classrooms and think about, okay, so how do I do this? So this person is asking me, this teacher is asking me about how to make the blogs successful and about literature circles. So I'm going to say right away that every quarter I do something different, because as you teach students and as their understanding of literature and reading and how their identity as readers change, you have to adapt. So I have a whole bunch of tabs up here I'm going to talk to you about and show you how it kind of evolved. So first, this is my calendar for my reading class, and you can see it's kind of in reverse order. Every time there's a new quarter, I just add another quarter here. But this is our whole school year, second quarter, third quarter. And what I use on this Google Doc is I hyperlink information for the students, links to the resources that we use, links to assignments and things like that. So if you put everything on one page, this will also make it really easy for you to communicate with your students when they're absent. And you can easily link this to your Google email, so if you email students. So first quarter looks quite different than the other quarters, where we're really building our independent reading. So there's lots of sort of words here like point of view and characterization and character interaction. So we're kind of building up the way that we want to read in class. And so their blogs are just developing at this point. So the way that it looks is this. In class, I sort of I encourage, and we all do, make time to read. Everyone's going to read. Everyone's going to find a way to appreciate reading. So students are reading in class, and then I just pose a question after 10 minutes of reading. And as students answer these questions, we build it into claim, evidence, and response. They don't know that they're doing it yet. We're just trying to build the expectation that when you answer a question or when you dig into something that you're reading, that you're using, for example, or a page number. So really easy back in August when I first met my students. Would you be friends with the character in your book? Why or why not? Give examples. So students do some writing in class on this, and then we have a whole class conversation. That's our curriculum. The next day, maybe I'll put up a vocabulary word like insolent, and I'll ask whether or not the character is insolent, and then we'll have this conversation. The students do some writing. They use, for example, they use a page number to cite text evidence. And then we have a really large discussion and where students talk about the books that they're reading and whether or not their character is insolent. Here we talk about the conflict or a scene where two characters are interacting. If you use Common Core state standards, then you know that this is one of the standards and you're getting at it right away the first week of school. Students have picked independent reading. Maybe they abandon book or change books every day, but they're using literary analysis from the first week of school, citing text evidence with the page number. So you see, this is our whole, first 2 weeks of school, roughly, where we're talking about the subject the book explores, the way it impacts your character, the structure of your book, if it has chapters or if it's told in present tense or past tense. And then students can, show each other their books and talk about this as well. And then this is maybe getting at the author's craft a little bit. So the whole first week, students aren't really into their blogs yet. We're just doing this in class. Or maybe we've set up the blogs. I feel like we may have set up like a Google Doc or something like that and practice claim evidence response. We did all of this in class. And then the day comes where I ask students to sort of do this formally. And I introduce claim evidence and reasoning with a response factor 2. And so this is where we get a little bit more formal and we practice with our shared text, which was the outsiders. So make a claim, there's more to Dally than just causing trouble. Evidence, for example, Dally is really protective of Johnny. When Johnny confronts him at the drive-in, Dally wants to fight, but doesn't. He says, "What did you say? What did you say to me?" Therefore, Dally can regulate himself if he wants to. He just needs a good reason, like the gang pet, Johnny. So this is a claim evidence reasoning. This might be something, this is more formal, and then we usually get into groups and practice it, making sure students have all 3 parts. And then it comes sort of the assignment where they do it at home, and I give them different ideas for their reading response, where they're doing it at home. And I think that's kind of it for first quarter. Okay, we do informal book groups where students just sort of get into groups at the end of the week and they just talk about their books. So I don't jump right into literature circles really in a formal way. We're just doing it very informally. Everyone has a different book. So that's first quarter. Independent reading, really informal book groups, a shared text, and then this might be something that I would give students to use in their informal book groups where they just, go around the circle and say, what are you reading and what is the subject of your book and what is the character's biggest concern? So that's all first quarter. Second quarter is a little bit different. Second quarter, I learned that maybe their claim evidence response is not as, I need it to be a little bit more sophisticated the second quarter. So I adjust my instructions. So this is our second quarter instructions for their blogs, where they make a claim, this is their evidence, and here's their reasoning. And I offer more sentence stems so that they're not so surface. Because a lot of times at that point after first quarter, students are just saying, I like it, I don't like it, or this is interesting, not interesting. And this helps them get at a little bit more sophisticated responses. And then I give them, these are responses from my students. And then we talk about what makes these more sophisticated, more meaningful responses, and we practice a little bit more in class. Second quarter is when we are also moving into getting ready to do our more formal book groups where we've been practicing. So this is where students fill out a selection document. So I have 7 different books that explore contemporary issues in America, and students rank these. And after they rank them, we put the students into book groups according to their preferences and also their parent preferences. You'll notice that nobody chose IMJ. This has a trans character in it, and no parents approved their student to read this book, which is a little bit sad.